Tell Me Your Story. New paradigms for a new world where we're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. This program is the first program, and my guest doesn't even know this, following the passing of my father. As a matter of fact, as of this conversation with my very special guest today, she's returning to our microphones and cameras and so forth via Zoom. Pamela Cummins, and it's a pleasure to have you with us here on the program. It is actually, and some would say, well, Richard, this is way too soon. It's actually less than 12 hours since his passing. But this program, Pamela, is my therapy. It is what I do. I was sharing with a good friend of mine just a few moments ago before we started. I said that if somebody were to be following my life on these interviews and all the interviews I've done over the 40 plus years, they could write my unauthorized biography. I mean, seriously. So it's for me, it's a time of talking about these kinds of things, and we won't necessarily go there per se, but I know that it will have an impact on what we're going to talk about. And I thank you so much for being with us here on this very special program.
And my condolences. May your dad rest in peace. And I'm really surprised that you're here. So, but let's if it's your therapy, let's go with it and see what happens. And if you need to stop the show at any time, I understand. Okay?
Sure. Well, I did the same thing almost a year ago, and I say almost because it was the end of March of last year when my eldest sister, my father's eldest daughter, passed. And I got the phone call, and I had an interview scheduled for 10 o'clock, and I went ahead and did it. Now, interestingly enough, I shared it with the family. Maybe it was too soon to share it with them, but nonetheless, they heard it and they said, you should have waited. You should have waited. Because obviously where I was in my mindset, they felt, but I needed to do that. I just did. Even right now, and this is going to lead into this whole aspect of dreams, because who knows what's going to transpire over the coming days or weeks as I sleep. And what will happen, or even a daydream where maybe I'll hear my father's voice, or my father and sisters. But there are also some interesting synchronicities. My father was born on August 13th of 1931, and he left his body on 3/1/2023. So there's that 3/1 again, so he came into this world in 1931, but he leaves March 1st. And then another synchronicity, my sister passed a year ago, and they were very close. And basically she went first so that he would have somebody to meet him on the other side. And I just, it's like, that is from my perspective, my view, that is so beautiful to think about it from that standpoint, that, wow, we go through that process alone. We really do. But it's nice to know that we've got friends on the other side that are waiting for us, both people, human, if you will, or and animal friends and so forth. And I've got a lot of them that are waiting for me, but they're going to have to wait quite a while. When we talk about dreams, and
I just want to interject for a second, because it's like the synchronicity, but I like to call them godcidents.
Oh, I like that. I like that.
Yeah. Isn't that neat? I didn't come up with that. I heard that a long time ago, and I know a cat is nothing compared to a parent, but it uses my parents. When I met Merlin, okay, my cat Merlin, who has since passed, the woman who was at PetSmart adopting people, her name was Judy, and my mom's name is Judy. And when Merlin passed, he passed on February 6th, and I'll never forget that day because that's my dad's birthday. So I really feel like that cat was special and meant to be. So, yeah.
It is. Now, I myself, I like the term God incidents.
Godcidence. Like a
Godcidence.
coincidence, Godcidence.
Well, I say there are no coincidences. There are only coincidences.
Mm.
It's spelled exactly the same. You just pronounce it. You
Right.
take liberties as the British do with laboratory, and they say laboratory, and that's okay. That's good. I love that though. That is wonderful. And you're right. And it's interesting too. You had a cat named Merlin. We did too. We also had a
Okay.
lovebird named Merlin.
Oh, interesting.
And both the lovebird and the cat were magical in the sense that when we lost Merlin the lovebird, at the time we were living in Phoenix, there were 4 Siberian Huskies that my present wife had, and they broke through the French doors of the house, knocked over the bird cage, and we thought they'd gotten a hold of Merlin, and Merlin was gone, dead. Well, we held a Thanksgiving dinner out on the patio that year, and this was like 5 or 6 months later. Who shows up on the fence? We recognized Merlin as, that was he got away, and he was still thriving. Then our cat Merlin would disappear in the house. Now, he was an indoor cat exclusively, and we were always careful to make sure that the doors were latched and this and that. And then, hey, have you seen Merlin? No, I haven't seen him. And we would scour the house and could not find him. And then he'd just kind of walk out from nowhere saying, "You looking for me?" So I don't know if your cat was like that or not.
Oh yeah, I think they go to like they're like, I'm kind of sick of this earth plane. Let me transcend. Let's go to a different plane just for a couple minutes. Ha ha, look at the humans looking for me. Yeah, that happens a lot.
Okay. Well, I will tell you that he also, when he was on his last minutes, if you will, or hours, he and my wife, being in the cardiology field of cardiology, had a stethoscope, and of course she's listening to his heart, and it stopped, and of course she broke down because he was such a wonderful. We'd had him from Phoenix, and we brought him with us and everything. And so we're there and crying over him and so forth. And then all of a sudden he starts to move again. She checks his heart and it's beating. So it was one of those disappearing acts. And then he came back. So, there's so many beautiful kinds of God incidents or coincidences that happen in our lives that sometimes are sparked by dreams. And we want to talk about that with you being the expert interpreter and spiritual growth coach. And you love helping your clients and students understand their dreams, the dream meanings, and also helping them to accelerate their personal and spiritual growth. You also have several books and oracle cards, or a deck of oracle cards. And folks can find out about all of these things at your website, which is PamelaCummins.com. Talk to us a little bit, and a refresher. You are returning to our program, and I'm very grateful for your coming back. Talk to us, for those who haven't heard this yet, how this all started for you, especially when it comes to the whole dream interpretation. And then, of course, I'd love to go into how you do that. So how did this all start for you?
Okay. And I want to apologize to the audience. Right now we're having, I know there's snow throughout the states, but in northeastern North Carolina, we're having green snow. So I have allergies right now. So
like that green snow. Okay.
Yeah, that's what the yellow green snow all over the place. Basically, the term doctor heal thyself.
Yes.
Okay. So it was going into my spiritual growth. Basically, I used to smoke a lot of pot. Okay. This was like 33 years ago. And, it wasn't working anymore. It really wasn't. It wasn't hiding the pain or anything. And I had a very dysfunctional childhood. I won't go into that. But I knew that it was time to start healing myself. And once I was clear-headed, that's when my dreams came back to me. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Is a good way of putting it. And I didn't understand them. And I actually went to a therapist who helped me interpret my dreams, because I found that dream like the dream symbol books never worked for my symbols. Okay. And she started to teach me how to do that. And while I was looking at my dreams, I started having psychic dreams, whether they were precognitive dreams, premonitions of the future, or just a knowing, dreams of the deceased. And she freaked out. She just, that wasn't her area, and she got very upset about that, and it was time to go. But that was how I started. So it was my own inner journey that helped me learn about myself. And I remember one time being with a group of people. This was back like 1990 or whatever, and some woman told me her dream, and I interpreted it, and she was like floored. She was so happy about it, and everybody looked like, but the rest of the people looked like I had two heads. Okay. They really did. Like,
Yeah.
how did you do that? But I found that the more I did it, the easier it became, and that just brought out like so many different things in my life. And my dreams definitely do guide me. So what I'm not a Jungian psychiatrist. I'm not a psychiatrist. Okay. I'm more of a intuitive and dream interpreter, but I just kind of have a natural knack for it, because I've been doing it so long. Just like you're really good at hosting radios and the whole radio scene, okay, because you've been doing it so long.
Yeah.
And that's really what makes you an expert, right? Just like it makes me an expert because I've been doing it so long. And it's funny because I remember this blog, I'm not going to say his name, but and I read it, and he told me what he gave his, because he was a psychologist, what he gave his client, the interpretation. And I came up with a totally different one, but it was accurate, because he was like, oh my God, I'm going to go tell him that, so it just comes from inside, I guess. And probably I've done this before. Whether or not you believe in a past life or whatever, I've probably done it before.
Mm. And I know too that if it were a past life, and that would put it in the past during times when that kind of thing is not only frowned upon, it can get you burned at the stake or worse.
Yes, it can. So,
and I find it very interesting. We've got in this country right now, we've got people in positions of power who are making decisions as to what we can and can't read. Specifically, the southeastern coast. I'm not going to mention exactly where, but I'm sure folks can figure it out, where we've got some people who think they know better than us what we should read. And some of the libraries in schools are almost virtually empty and devoid of literature. And I remember a conversation that I had with a former boss who was really in support. This was back in the 80s and early 90s, of Congress revoking the Congress printing Playboy specifically in Braille. And so I went to him and I said, well, okay, now bear in mind, just a quick refresher for some folks, I was born legally blind. I was listening to, as well as utilizing large print books and listening to talking books and recordings for the blind, textbooks and leisure books. And I was also working at the same time for the Christian station. I was working for a radio reading service for the blind and visually impaired, where they read whatever they could get their hands on, newspapers, magazines, books, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I said, so basically what you are telling me and pretty much anybody who will listen to you, that you know better and that you are going to decide what they can read. Whereas you can go into a bookstore, you can look at a book. If you don't like the color of the book, you don't like the title of the book, you don't like the subject of the book, you don't have to read it. But a blind person or one who is visually impaired, can't make those choices because they can't see to do that. So you're going to decide that. So you're going to basically usurp their own inalienable rights, if you will, and so forth. And believe it or not, that was one of the very few, shall we say, conversations that I won. In other instances, I was just flat out wrong and my logic was flawed. But in that instance, he kind of got it that, who am I to decide what you should? Plus the fact that they print in Braille, the Playboy, the words. They don't put the pictures or even descriptions of the pictures in Playboy. Plus the fact I said, look, if Hefner wants to spend the money to get it printed in Braille, more power to him. I think that's great. But it's being done by the Library of Congress, and it's been going on for decades, even at that time, a couple, 3 decades since the magazine came out. So where the heck were you then? Why are you upset now? So that was one of the things that I found real interesting. And so when it comes to this whole aspect of dream interpretation or any other, we'll call it supernatural expression. How about that? A supernatural expression or spiritual expression, because you're a spiritual growth coach and so forth. What does that entail?
Basically, a spiritual growth coach is where I help people get in touch with their spiritual gifts. Okay. And by the way, I want to say Jesus had a lot of spiritual gifts. He had intuition about Judas. He could turn water into wine. He did energy healing. Okay. So, but I doubt they're going to take Jesus out of the Bible, but I want to put that out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay? Absolutely.
But it's helping people get in touch with their inner wisdom, however that looks to them, and also to deal with their issues. And, I'll get, whether that's interpreting their dreams or getting, because I have psychic abilities, getting messages for them and helping them to grow spiritually, whatever that is. Because I'll work with Christians, I'll work with Muslims, I'll work with agnostics. I'm an interfaith minister. I'm not sure if you're aware of that. I got ordained 4 days after 9/11. And I think it's important to accept whatever anybody believes because that's true for them. It's just like books, and, I'm in the South, okay? And in Barnes and Nobles actually has a table that says banned books. But I do believe that people should read whatever they want. And if you don't like what people are reading, or if you don't like what I'm saying, don't pick up the book, turn the channel or whatever. And that's part of the spiritual growth, So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Well, I find it interesting again that it's really sad that they actually have to have a table labeled banned books. And I realize this is a little far field, but I find it interesting. Do you know what the very first book that Kindle removed from its list of books to be read? It was such an irony when I read about this. The very first book that Kindle removed from its viewing list, its reading list, was Fahrenheit 451. A story about the very thing that they're doing, even though it's not literal, of book burning. I thought, wow. When it comes to dreams, we have dreams, we have daydreams. We've heard these terms. We also have what are called nightmares.
Right.
Nightmares, though, we're only calling them that because there's sort of a negative connotation in the imagery. It's like watching a horror film. Okay. And so we call those nightmares, but they're still dreams.
Right.
Are you able to take people into those types of dreams, the real dramatic ones? Or do a lot of people have trouble doing that because they were really horrific, and I really don't want to go back there. Please don't make me go back there.
Yeah, most people don't want to go back into that. They just kind of want to know what does it mean? How can I stop them? How can I stop them? But basically, nightmares, are alerting you to what you're not paying attention to, whether it's emotions, because we're taught to repress our emotions a lot of times. Um, don't feel angry, don't feel sad, or denying, maybe it's, you're unhappy at a job, so you're not, you want to stay there because it's good money, and so you have dreams about your boss always going after you. Okay. Or
I think
I'm
I
sorry,
added it just for one
my mind is
Thursday,
kind of
but
scattered right now.
okay, that's fine. And
But
we'll see you at
but
two.
they're alerting you to issues, I guess you could
And we'll
say,
see you at two.
and what you need to deal with.
We're talking with Pamela Cummins, and she is a dream interpreter. She also has quite a number of books, some of them actually on dream interpretation, like Learn the Secret Language of Dreams. Now, to that end, I would like to ask you about that in terms of the secret language. Is that language something that you have come up with, or is that language one that the individual dreamer has to learn in order to be able to interpret their dreams?
Okay, well, it's not, Latin is probably hard, but I think learning the dream language is harder because there are certain universal symbols.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. For instance, being naked might mean, if you dream you're naked in a dream, it might mean that you're being vulnerable. A lot of people think vulnerability, of afraid to show people who you are, or you show it too much of who you are and you need to put some clothes on. Okay. So there's certain universal symbols and stuff, but really it depends upon the individual. Okay. For instance, let's use nudity since that's what I came up with. Okay. Now, if a woman, like let's say a nun, had a dream that she was nude in church, that's going to be very embarrassing. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to horrify her. So that's going to have a totally different meaning for her. It might mean because a week ago she was really honest with the nun, and the nuns gossiped to all the other nuns. Now, I'm not saying this, I'm just making this up, so I don't mean to offend anybody who is a nun or whatever. Okay. Where a stripper is going to have a different totally, if she dreams that she's naked in church, she's might, maybe where she strips at, maybe the people call it the church. All right. Or she feels totally comfortable with her body. Now, a nudist, maybe they have church services in the nude. So, that's one symbol that means so many different things to people. So really it is, what about you? Your dream language is about, there's universal, it's about you. It's
Mm-hmm.
about your past experiences that you've had, the society you grew up in. Okay. Because somebody in Iran is going to have different types of dreams than someone in the US. It's about your work, your present issues, because we all have, problems in our lives. It's about relationships, and it can be about the future and so many different things. It's about you. That's like nightmares really are about you. We talked earlier. What are you denying in life? What are you afraid of? What are you not paying attention to? What do you do to desire to move forward? Okay, so the dream language is it can be very personal.
We're
Okay,
talking.
and can
Go ahead. Go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, I was going to use an example. It's like somebody, I don't know, this is what's coming to mind. Somebody sees like a bar fight, right? And the cops come and they ask people, what did you see? What did the guy look like? You're probably going to get like 10 different viewpoints, but in their mind, that's what happened. That's how they saw
Mm-hmm.
it. So we all perceive things differently. like talking about the books, we all perceive it differently.
Exactly. Yeah. We're talking with Pamela Cummins, and PamelaCummins.com is her website. And we'll be linked to that website, just as we were with the first interview that we had with her. And we're so glad that she's back with us here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, your host, and this is really, quite honestly, a lot of fun talking with Pamela about this. Even as I and my family are dealing with the realities of life, and I have to say, Pamela, I don't like using the word death, not because I have a problem with it, but because it is so negatively charged. I like transition, passing on, moving on. I was told that my three remaining sisters and my mother and my brother-in-law, who was married to my eldest sister, they were standing around him, standing around my father, singing what are referred to as the traveling songs that we would sing when we went on vacations when I was a kid. And I just thought how appropriate that he is traveling on as well. And there was one in particular. You kind of have to set aside the connotations, if you will. It was actually, I don't know if it was considered a Black Negro spiritual, and I don't know why we were singing it, other than one of the groups that my dad loved to listen to. It was a folk group. The I want to say the Young Pioneers. I don't know if that's correct. Anyway, the song was called Old Black Joe. I hear the distant voices calling, Old Black Joe, and it's talking about people around this person who is singing. Is probably Old Black Joe, is who's sort of the narrator, if you will, the singer. Oh, everybody's gone. All of my childhood friends and so forth. And my dad was 91, and most of his friends, I mean, he would even talk about how they would go to the high school reunion year after year after year, which I thought was interesting. And of course, the class got smaller and smaller and smaller. But that's just part of the process of the life that we live. And my father always said, eat, drink, and be merry in moderation, because nobody gets out of this world alive. But while we're here, and as I was speaking with a rabbi just the other day about a lot of this, the focus needs to be on the here and the now. But we can get some help. And you talk about that in regards to our inner wisdom. How is that different from, or is it the same as, the still small voice that we would listen to, our intuition, our gut, etc.? Because it seems to me like there would be a little bit of a difference there. Is there a difference between wisdom, that inner wisdom, and the still small voice?
I'm going to say they're brother and sisters. Is a good way of putting it. Okay? Because everybody's talking about how, like, the dream language. Yeah. Everybody's inner wisdom is different. And some people call it psychic. It's like sometimes your inner wisdom, it's just a knowing, which is similar to intuition. Okay. It's just a knowing. It's a feeling. You might get like a real quick flash. Okay. And it's like, what is that? And and that's not really intuition. You might see like people I don't want to say ghosts, people who have crossed over, right? Okay, and come back to visit. You might see them quickly. You might hear it, okay, which is also called clairaudience, which I have a lot of. Okay, you might even smell it. Okay, my mom, she passed away a long time ago, and she smoked a lot. And I would be driving. I was going to I cannot remember the name of it. This was back like in the 90s. I can't remember the name of the school. But it was a far drive, and I drive down there, and I quit smoking a long time ago. You cannot smoke in my house. You cannot smoke in my car. Okay. Because I find it very disgusting. But I'd be driving in my car, and I'm on 287. Okay. And all of a sudden I'd get a big whiff of cigarettes. Okay. Now that's not intuition. Okay. But inside, my wisdom knew it was my mom, and I'd be like, hi, Mom. And that's how I knew she was with me. I knew how to buy a car one time because it smelled good. I was with my dad and the salesman, and we opened up a car, right? And I'm like, oh, it smells so good. I thought it was the air freshener, but it wasn't. Okay, so inner wisdom, yeah, it's like meditation and hypnosis. It's similar.
How about the difference between dreams and visions? Do people get visions in dreams and vice versa, or are they
That's a,
totally separate?
that's a good question. And quite honestly, I'm really not sure how to answer it because most people do see things in it. But
Hmm.
I'm sure you could probably actually this just came to me, my inner wisdom, okay,
Hmm.
where someone could have a dream and they're going along and they sit in meditation and they get a vision. So why not?
Yeah. Interesting. And also, dreams slash visions can be sort of premonitions. I had one, and I think I shared this the last time we were together, where and this dream I had took place prior to 1996, when I had a lens implant and was able to drive. And the dream basically consists of me sitting in the driver's seat behind the wheel of a white van, like a Dodge Caravan, and I'm driving along a beautiful, pristine highway, and I come across this incredible forest off to the right, and the sun is beaming through. You see the light beams, the sunbeams coming through the trees, right? And there's a road, and I turn off, and I get off the freeway, and I go through the forest to this incredible green, beautiful green meadow, and the blue skies. What a contrast. It was gorgeous, just like when we had the snow up here, and the green grasses and then the blue skies. And I come upon this stone cottage, this stone house with arched windows. And I go inside, and there's my grandmother on my mother's side. And she doesn't say a word. She just looks at me, and we hug as if to say, everything's all right. Everything's all right. So this, I'm thinking the dream probably took place shortly after her passing. So it was sort of a twofold dream. Number one, it was because I was very upset. I was almost removed from the church during the funeral, prior to the funeral, the service, because I was crying so much over her passing. But it was also premonition, because shortly after I got my driver's license, after the lens implant, my parents sold me their white Dodge Caravan. And the next thing you know, I'm driving on the freeways of Phoenix. And then the next thing you know, I'm driving on the freeways of California, Los Angeles, and so forth, into the woods, Los Padres National Forest, where we live.
Mm.
So is there a way for maybe there isn't a way for us to determine, oh, this has just got messages that I need to be aware of, as opposed to this is sort of maybe this is going to happen down the road. I don't know when and where, but this would be kind of cool. Or I wonder if there's a way I can avoid that, because it's a nightmare.
Well, sometimes your inner wisdom, going back to that, will just know. There's a knowing, okay? But other times it's kind of like practice. This is where like a dream journal comes really in handy, where you write this down, and you understand the feeling. You write down the feeling, how it felt. Okay, was there some kind of emotion? Because sometimes a precognitive dream can be, what dreams of the future, in case people don't know, what can be very symbolic. So you write it down, and then you wait and then if it happens, then you can go back and say, okay, this is what happened. This is what happened, and then the next time a dream like that happens, you recognize it. Okay, so it's kind of understanding it. What it feels like.
Yeah.
It was kind of like knowing that it was my mom. My mom also appears like in a dove, so it's that knowing, and that's what happens with precognitive dreams. And precognitive dreams often, like, you don't I have a feeling you don't remember a lot of your dreams, but you remember that dream.
Yeah.
Okay, So they kind of stand out too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I have all of these tickets that I went to all of these movies that went on, but I don't remember them. And
Right.
and I know that there are techniques that one can use to remember them because they can be quite profound. They can be quite enlightening and insightful and maybe inspiring as well as entertaining. Um, do you find that when you talk with people about their dreams, not so much the specific details in the dream, but more in terms of, did you have sound, and was it in color or black and white? Or maybe it was in sepia tone. Who knows? I mean, you talk about using film editing, video editing, and Photoshop and so forth with all the filters they have in there. We've got an amazing video editor in there. I'm curious, what's been your experience in that regard with the people that you've worked with, and with yourself, for that matter?
Okay. Well, you know what? I never ask, was it in color or did you hear anything? I guess maybe that's basically they explain it, but I found that yes, a lot of times they will say I saw this color and somebody said this, or I thought to myself,
Mm-hmm.
because that happens, like I thought to myself, what is going on here? What a jerk. But no, but a lot of times people do say I saw, like for instance, this one's coming up. My eyes were purple. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Or it was in my old house, and I saw blood, or I heard something. So I don't really ask.
Okay.
For me, it's more like, what did you feel? Because
Yeah.
that's important. What did you feel? Because that's going to change the dream. Did you feel happy? Did you feel sad? Did you feel scared? That's what's really important.
I've even had physical sensations, and usually the physical sensation in the context of the dream, which is kind of interesting how it gets incorporated, is the bladder is a little on the full side, and
Yes.
you need to wake up, get up.
Or you're cold.
Yeah, it's really fascinating to me. This part, and is this whole dream aspect? This is all in the subconscious or the unconscious,
Um,
or do
I
we
don't know.
know?
There's really proof of that. I feel like it's both.
Yeah.
Okay. Like it's like the example I'm gonna get, if you get like you daydreaming, okay, but you're still aware of everything that's going on, okay, or you all of a sudden you're meditating and you're meditating lightly, and you can hear, or you go like really deep that you're almost asleep.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what happens with the dream. Sometimes when you're having a light dream and you're about to get up, that's more in the subconscious. When it's really deep, it's unconscious. Or in the case of uh, deceased dreaming of, let's say, those who've crossed over, okay, because that's a nice way, and you're having a conversation or with angels, I don't even know if it's in the unconscious. I feel like it's in a different realm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now I'm not scientific, so I'm sure science could explain it, the beta, the theta, and all
Yeah.
that much better
Yeah.
than I could. To me, that doesn't matter. It matters what's occurring, how do you feel, how's this going to help you?
And when it comes to talking about the past lives, and I've heard, of course, I've had conversations. I've been through LBL, or Life Between Lives therapy. God, that was so cool. That was.
Mm.
I'd even go back to the therapist that I went to here in Santa Barbara and say, "Can I go back again, please?" And of course, he'd say, "Well, you can go back, but you don't need me," kind of thing. But it was just such a cool life, and this one is too. Don't get me wrong.
Mm.
But that one, as I look back on it, there's a movie I'd like to replay,
Mm.
because I was just as gregarious, I was just as outgoing, I was just as friendly and amenable as I am today. And I say that not sarcastically. At least I'd like to think that I'm all of those things these days. But it was such a wonderful experience, and I'm wondering too if dreams have ever, if you've had those experiences either personally or with clients, with people you work with, who have tapped into not it's a dream, but somehow, some way, it's a dream of one of their past lives, a period of time in one of their past lives.
Oh, absolutely. I have, and I've had clients. Now, for anybody out there who feels offended or this can't be true, whether or not you believe it, it doesn't matter. It doesn't help the person. But
Right,
yes,
right.
absolutely, people have it in their dreams because um well, for one thing, if we had thousands of past lives or even 10, we go into, they call it the river of forgetting. Okay.
Mhm.
We can't remember them because how are we going to function? Okay. And sometimes you can do hypnosis, you can do meditation, but sometimes it's easier for it to come into your dreams because your ego's out of the way. Your
Mhm.
conscious mind isn't there. And when it does come in, it's usually to help you with something. You can also have dreams. And just like precognitive dreams, there's a knowing it was you. Okay.
Mhm.
That inner wisdom, that intuition, whatever there's a knowing. Okay. You can also have dreams that you're someone else. Okay. And
Ah,
that feels a little different. And maybe you're actually tapping into somebody else's life. Okay. I want to share this dream because I remember having this dream. I was single at the time. I was working at a car dealership doing bookkeeping. This was back in the 80s. Okay. I'm dating myself. Okay. And I had this dream and I remember it because we were right across the street from a 7-Eleven. And I had this dream where there was this really good looking guy who was my husband. He was gorgeous, who was a landscaper, had this big truck. And I'm up there and I'm talking to him. And it felt like I knew him and everything else. Okay. And it was really neat. And it didn't feel like a desire to have someone in my life. This felt like an actual life. And I don't know if you've seen on like certain science fiction where we have different Earths and different, what's the word I'm looking for? Different realms and stuff.
oh
Well,
yeah,
maybe this was Pamela in another realm where she was married. You never know.
yeah.
Dreams are like really amazing.
Pamela Cummins is my guest. PamelaCummins.com is the website. I'm Richard Dugan, and you are listening to Tell Me Your Story. We bring you new paradigms for a new world as we give you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. That's right, to help make your dreams come true. It's only if you want them to come true. Some of the dreams we have, maybe we don't want to go down that road. But there are different kinds of dreams. Is that correct? Well, how many different kinds of dreams are there?
I would have to sit there and I'm just going to rattle some off. Okay.
Okay.
I've mentioned precognitive dreams, dreams of the deceased, solution dreams, environment dreams. Those are the dreams when, Mother Nature is calling. Relationship dreams. I call them spiritual chapter dreams when you're going on to a new phase in your life. Health dreams. I know I'm forgetting lucid dreaming, okay, which I'm not an expert in. PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder, which is things that have actually happened. And I know there's more. I'm just, my brain can only hold so much
Yeah.
in the conscious state. But there are a lot of different. Oh, think one of my colleagues, she calls them smokestack dreams. So things that have happened to you during the day, like things that irritate you, might come up. So there's all different types, and I find that dream categories help interpret them better. Like for instance, like you said, like you have a dream that makes you get up in the middle of the night, you're looking for a bathroom or you're thirsty. Um, those you know that those really aren't giving you a solution. Okay. Unless, of course, because I've had this and I know some of my clients where you actually go in the dream. Okay. And it's kind of like you're letting go. Or if it's number one, you could be pissed off at something. So it depends.
Hmm. I just this conversation is just so cool, and the other thing I wanted to talk to you about has to do, and of course I did ask you to define a little bit if you could, and you gave us a wonderful answer as opposed to the difference between the inner wisdom and the still small voice and so forth, and I think that's really cool. But there's an element to all of this that everyone has these dreams. All right. Now, there's a difference between dreams. I know that there's a difference between dreams and deja vu. I've been here before. Now, sometimes we might have a dream, and then in this reality, we end up there. I had I've had the feeling like when my wife and I went to Ireland, we were there twice. There were certain instances where I've been here before. I've never been to Ireland in my life, in this lifetime, and yet I've been here before. This feels familiar. And I'll tell you that I have defined deja vu experiences as the universe basically giving me signposts saying you're going in the right direction. I understand you don't have a lot of trust right now, but we're giving you these signposts to let you know you're going in the right direction. Once I tapped into that and I knew that, and now I'm listening to my still small voice, that inner voice, the guidance, the wisdom, however we want to put it. I can't remember the last time I had a deja vu experience. And I'm wondering too, as far as the dreams are concerned, we're trying to grow spiritually as well as in other areas of our lives. And so I have to wonder if we would have dreams for, I don't know, for maybe just sheer entertainment purposes while we're sleeping. The other
Why
part of this,
not?
Like
those are usually those are when, and we've all experienced this, where you're having such a good dream and you wake up and it's like, why'd you wake me up?
I want to go back.
Exactly. So, why not? Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. And those deja vu, it can happen during the daytime and the nighttime. And I think when you need it, it will happen. You can't, it's not like you can like drapes, like curtains. You can't custom order deja vu or a dream or whatever. That I think it's good because us humans want to be in such control, and you can't be in control of that.
Yeah. What just struck me, and this is again another one of these a little off the subject here, but what just struck me was the attributes that we acquire through the DNA, through the chromosomes from our parents and their parents and their parents, our ancestors. And throughout my career, and it started very early, ironically at 12, because I did my first interview with a local personality in Phoenix when I was 12 years old to write that infamous paper that we all have to write. What do you want to be when you grow up? Well, I can say, and I don't know if you can say this or not, or maybe there are periods of time in a person's life where they can say this, but for the majority of my life, the majority of my 62 years on this planet, I have felt like I've been in the right place at the right time. Even when I was going through my divorce, when I filed bankruptcy twice in this lifetime, when I popped a wheelie on a ramp with my buddies when I was younger on my bicycle and I forgot to pull up on the front wheel, and I went ass over tea kettle and I scratched up a brand new watch that I'd been given for Christmas, and all of the other, and then I fell off a wall in Sedona. There's this church in Sedona, Arizona. I think it's Church in the Rock or something like that. And I was told not to get on the wall because I will hurt myself. Well, I fell off the wall. I landed flat on my belly, knocked the wind out of me. And of course, all of the comforting and everything. And there was no real chastisement other than, well, we did tell you that you might fall, but you're okay. You're okay. Dust yourself off. Away we go. Do you find that you get those instances, and I don't know if that's the inner wisdom telling you or the inner voice? Yeah, keep going. Don't stop now. Keep moving.
Right. I think this is for me personally, when I feel like I'm in the wrong places, because why'd that happen? I believe that, yes, and every choice that I make and we humans make, and it might seem like the wrong thing, as long as you learn from it.
Mm.
There's that saying, and this is a personal story. Me and this guy was seeing, we broke up. So it was kind of like shame on him, but I took him back and we broke up again, and it was shame on me. And then he wanted to get back together with me. And I was like, third time, well, that I'm going to have to be, shame on me, because I would have to be a real idiot. Okay. I used swear words with that, but but I'm not
That's
going to do
okay.
that. But I would have to be really stupid to take them back 3 times. But we learn from that, and we learn from our dreams. So we're always in the right place. I remember before I went to the psychic, and I said to her, and I said, I'm so afraid I'm going to choose the wrong card because, whoops, sorry about that, because I didn't want a bad card. And she looked at me and she's like, you're never going to choose the wrong card. I just might not like it. That's what it comes down to. But we're not always going to like it.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, like, when my mom passed, believe me, I did not like that. But I learned so much from her passing.
Mm-hmm.
And, when I got a partial hysterectomy, I wasn't like, oh, yeah, this is great. But I learned something from that. So we always learn. There's a psychic said to me a long time ago, out of horror comes wisdom. So that, and to go back earlier to the nightmares, right? Who wants a nightmare? Nobody wants a nightmare. Nobody wants to wake up and go, oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
But there's, out of that horror of a dream, there's wisdom through it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The deja vu experiences I was describing, I don't get them as often because apparently I'm connected enough now where the universe says, if you need it, we'll give it, but you don't need it right now because you're doing just fine. You're going in the right direction. Now that's my interpretation. And I don't know, maybe that's one of the reasons why I'm not really remembering my dreams, because and again, I'm not boasting here by any means, but because I'm doing so much of that inner work and trying to resolve this and come to terms with that and so forth. It was like when.
Can I interrupt for a minute?
Sure, go ahead. Go ahead.
There are people, we all dream, okay? We don't remember them, but people get what they need from different sources. So when, like, for you, dreams aren't your thing, okay? The deja vu was for you, or you might get it through talking through people. For me, dreams, or I don't remember all my dreams. For somebody else, it might be, meditation. We all get it through different ways. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It makes perfect sense. And of course, so that means that, oh, well, how about this? If we all dream, whether we remember them or not, are there ways to bring those dreams to our recollection, our conscious recollection? I mean, even those dreams that when I wake up, I've got to write this down. I remembered. But 10 minutes later, it's like, oh, darn it, I didn't write it down. What was that dream about? Are there files that we can tap into to to pull up some of these dreams?
Probably through hypnosis. It would probably be easier to have someone else do it than for you to do it, because I think I told the story the last time how I was at this hypnosis convention, and the guy was taking us through this long meditation, and I got bored. Some people need like a long dialogue to get into the space where I was right there. And I got so bored that I actually went back into a dream that I had forgotten about. And when I woke up, I was like, oh, I forgot the dream again. But yeah, I think that we can go back into the dream if we need to do that. So,
well, this is fascinating to me because it's a part of us It is a part of us that is also tied to the divine in some way. Now, the still small voice or that inner wisdom, to me, is tied to the divine. But I'd also
Absolutely.
like to think that when we're getting messages through our dreams, that is still connected to. There's that conduit that's going to the divine, to and from, actually, from the divine to us, and vice versa. And I think that's really kind of cool, because we can never say that we're separate. We're always connected. There is no separation, in spite of the fact that I know there are a lot of people that would like to be left alone. They want to get off the grid. They want to be all by themselves, live as a hermit, you know. Okay, that's fine. That's your choice. Absolutely. You can do that.
But they're still not alone. Okay.
But they're still not alone. Exactly.
Besides being connected to the divine, your angels and everything else, there's still going to be a grasshopper, or there's going to be, grass or plants or animals. You're never completely alone. You might feel lonely, but we're always connected. But yes, the dreams, and we're always getting messages from the divine.
Yeah.
Always.
And we need, I impress this upon people all the time, that we need to stay connected. We need to listen to, but more important than all of that is we need to follow the promptings. We need to follow the promptings.
Right.
I think we've talked about this before, that the inner voice and even that inner wisdom, it will never put you in harm's way. It will challenge you, and there is a difference. It will challenge you, but it will not put you in harm's way. That's not its purpose.
No, it's really to help you grow and to
Yeah.
help you move forward. Whether it might even be like go, don't make a left where you normally go, make a right. And you're like, but I always go this way, and you go that way, right? And there was an accident and you're there for 5 hours, where if you had made a right,
Yeah.
you wouldn't have dealt with that. And that can be symbolic for other things in your life.
Exactly.
Always, it always makes sense.
Need to tap into that information that's always there. I've gotten, for the majority of my life now, I've gotten to the point where it's almost second nature. I don't ever want to take it for granted, but it's like it's almost second nature, where I don't even have to ask the question, should I turn left or right? Should I do this or that? You just get that sense. You just get that feeling. It's like, okay, I'm going to let go of the rudder of this ship. You tell me which way. It kind of reminds me of that one country song, Jesus, take the wheel.
Right. But you could be, well, maybe I should make a left, and then you see like birds flying towards the right, and you're like, okay, I'll go that way. Now, obviously, you don't have to do that when you're driving. I do want to point out, though, if people want to know how they can tap into their intuition and their inner wisdom, and they're not in touch with it, get quiet. That's the way you can do. Get quiet. And it's really hard to tap into your inner wisdom when you're like, woe is me, or you're angry, or you're really sad. You need kind of like a peaceful state of mind. Okay. And that will help you begin to get in touch with it, because it's hard to hear that inner voice and that inner wisdom with all this stuff going on. It's like being at a nightclub, and there's a band playing and your phone rings and you don't hear it because there's too much going on.
Yeah.
All right. You need to push all that stuff aside. And the more you practice it, then even sometimes when you're really upset, the inner wisdom, you might hear it.
Yeah. It's interesting too that it will give you perspective, and a lot of times I was in the hospital back in 2021. I had my gallbladder and a gallstone removed, an infected gallbladder and a golf ball size. I actually saw my surgeon just the other day. She was on one of our programs because she's with the local clinic here. And I said, was it a Titleist or a Ping golf club? She responded, oh, it was a Ping. But I remember being in the hospital and there was some discomfort. It felt more like indigestion. Okay. And it didn't go away for several hours. And that's why my wife says, we're going to the hospital. And we did. And there you go. So I'm laying there prior to the surgery and I'm thinking the only thing that was really going through my mind was, you're going to be on the other side of this before you know it. And I was on the other side of it before I knew it. And the pain that I felt afterwards wasn't any more than what I was experiencing prior. And which was not a bad thing, but it's like I was getting that message. You're going to be on the other side of this before you know it, so you don't need to be afraid. And I wasn't. Quite honestly, I was actually rather elated that I was in the hospital, specifically because I didn't have my phone with me, and it was so nice. It was wonderful, and all I had were people to talk to, the attendants, the nurses, et cetera, et cetera. It was like a mini vacation. Not that I would recommend having your gallbladder taken out on vacation, but for me, that was my observation. That was my perspective. It was like, and then I asked the surgeon prior to the surgery, well, while you're in there, why don't you take out my appendix? Apparently, I don't need that either. She says, no, we don't do twofers. Perspective. Dreams can give us perspective. Our inner wisdom can give us perspective that maybe we hadn't thought of before.
Absolutely.
It's extraordinary. It really is. Pamela Cummins is my guest, and we're talking about dreams. She is a dream expert as well as a spiritual growth coach, and we are here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, your host here on Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. And one of those things that we talked about is sort of the other dimensions, the other realms of the universe that we probably can only get to by shedding the body, as it were. My father has done that. My eldest sister has done that. I've had friends, good friends who have done that over the years. I've had pets who have done that. And I got to tell you, I love the fact that there's going to be this incredible crowd of people when in another 40, maybe 50 years, I'll be joining them because I just have too much I want to do, but then again, I can't control the universe and its timetable. I don't know when my departure date and time are. And you know what? It's okay because I'm sure like you, Pamela, I'm good to go. I don't want to, but I'm good. I'm not afraid. Like my sister, she shared in a conversation I had with her. She says, I'm not afraid. I'm ready. I'm okay with this. And I thought, oh, I am so glad that she is not afraid, because I've heard that it can be very traumatic if you are stuck in that fear at that time.
Yeah. Well, I think most of us, I know for myself, when I go, I hope it's quick. I don't want this long. I mean, the good thing about like a long illness is that you get to say goodbye to everyone. You spend time with them, you can make amends and all that. But I think that most people would just be like, I want to go.
Yeah.
Because it really is just a different plane.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of, I enjoy life. If you ask me right now, do you want to die? No, I enjoy life. I enjoy my honey. I enjoy my animals. I enjoy, my sister who just called me. I enjoy working with people. Writing. There's so much I enjoy, but I know that life goes on. Because I've been in contact with them. They've been in contact with me. I've had dreams of the deceased. So many of my clients have dreams of their loved ones coming over. In fact, that's a lot of my clients, they're like, I had this dream. Is it, was it really him? And, a lot of people ask me about dreams of deceased. They're my most popular blogs, honestly. So and you can feel their presence too, if you get into that, quiet space.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, last year was a year where I had a lot of close friends and relatives pass away. From a dear friend who lived across the street from us. He was in his 90s, and I know that sounds trite and a little unfair to say, but he lived a good life. Because but he did live a good life, and we had a lot of fun together. He taught me a lot. And then, of course, a dear friend who was a programmer here on this station, who passed away then in February. He was January, and then this gentleman was February. He was also a good friend. He coined the phrase that they use on this program, the producer. We want to thank the producer, Richard, the Duke Dugan. And I thought, well, that's neat. And then, of course, there was my sister in March. And it was a rough beginning to 2022. I'm going to say that it hasn't been a rough beginning to 2023 because my father was never the same after her passing, and he wanted to go. He just wanted to go, and now he's where he wants to be, and he's out of that body. He's not in pain. There's no Parkinson's. There's no dementia. None of that. And I'm just thinking of the movie Defending My Life with Meryl Streep and Albert Brooks. And Meryl Streep's character is just having the time of her life, eating whatever she wants and not gaining a pound. And Albert is just going nuts with fear, going, "Oh my God, the review! Oh my God, they're going to send me to hell!" And it's like, Albert, you've missed the point. It is only a review. It is not a judgment,
Right.
And so I think about that and thinking, okay, well, my dad is less than 12 hours over to. I call it the other side, but it isn't really. It's just it's a dimension we can't see. It's like he's right here, but I just can't see him. And okay, I've been through that life between lives thing, and of course I learned that you started. I even read Dr. Newman's books, the case studies, where people they'll rest for a little while, and again, there's no time on there, and maybe they'll hang around for a little while to make sure everything's okay. And then they'll go do the life review. And then I thought this was fascinating. Then there are classes that you can take. I thought that was so cool. Continued education, on the other side, as it were. I just find all of this so incredible and fascinating and quite honestly fun.
Yeah, well, it's funny because people are like, when I go to heaven, I can finally rest and stuff, and people think, oh, I'm going to hang out with God and I'm going to eat bonbons and it's going to be great. And it's like, yeah, you'll get some of that, but you still have to do work on yourself. Yeah. You still have to help others. Yeah. Some people go into like actual hospitals if they had a really traumatic death, or they have to look at stuff. It's not like you're just going to float on a cloud forever.
Yeah. Well, I know that from the again, this is just from my experiences being around these folks of this philosophy. 15 years I worked for a Christian radio station, and the way they would describe heaven, it was, we're going to be sitting or kneeling or whatever, and we'll be worshiping God for all eternity. I'm going, okay, I understand giving God's due. All right. I appreciate the life that I've been given. That's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Now let's move on to something else, because just sitting there and worshiping just seems kind of boring.
Well, I don't think,
I don't think that's what it is, though. That's what I'm saying.
Well, and, if you think of God as one being, or like as the Father, he's not going to want you to do that. He's going to be like any other father. Get off your butt and start doing stuff.
Well, it's like that my analogy, of the person walking around in a field, a meadow, and they're carrying their will in their hands. And I just want to do God's will. I just want to do God's will. And they toss it up, as it were. And God is moved when God catches their will in his hands, compressing it down. And I say his, and we've anthropomorphized him, or God. Anyway, he's compressing that person's will, that individual's will, down into the size of a baseball. And he rears back and hurls a Nolan Ryan 90-mile-an-hour fastball smack dab in the forehead of that individual and says, similar to what you said, then do something with the life I gave you. You are not a puppet on a string being manipulated by forces you do not understand.
Right.
And
Right.
that to me is, I try to get that across to people. And by the way, who is that long black-tailed critter who's meandering in front of
And
you?
you can probably hear Pedro, my parakeet, in the
I
back.
hear,
That's
yes.
Rhiannon. And
Rhiannon.
she's hiding. She does
Oh,
not want you to see her face.
she
Come
is
on, Rhiannon,
marvelous. I
look at
love it. I
everybody. There
love it.
you
It's
go.
fabulous.
You know what? It's easier just to pet her, because if not, she's going to go around my feet and she might meow and scratch me. So it's just easier. So,
Well, she's actually tapped into something that happens around this time of the interview. And that is that we're just about to wrap things up. But I want to remind you folks that we're talking with Pamela Cummins and PamelaCummins.com. And she's a dream expert as well as a spiritual growth coach. And you can go to her website and find out more about her as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, your host, and Pamela, first of all, thank you for giving us so much time and coming back again to talk about these things here on this program. It's not just helpful for me. Yeah, this is my therapy, but I'm really hoping that it's helpful for those who are listening as well as watching on YouTube. Are there any final words, any comments, any suggestions that you might offer to someone who is, I don't know, maybe curious and or even grappling with trying to understand what it is they're experiencing in that dream state?
Well, first of all, obviously write them down, record them, have some type of journal, whatever you're comfortable with, so you can review them. And then slowly but surely think of what's going on in your life, what happened in the past, what you were feeling in them. Okay. And just keep doing it. Practice makes perfect. And when it comes to symbols, please don't go straight to a dream app or a dream dictionary. Kind of think, what does that symbol mean to me?
Right.
And if you get really stuck, well, of course I have services, but I want to say, even with my services, I always give a couple dream interpretations, but which one is right. It's kind of like, the inner wisdom, the inner ding, 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 ding. Yes, that one feels right. That one possibly could be. Usually it's aspects of them all, but start doing it. And also, you can also go and meditate and think about what the dream means to you. You might get insight that way too.
Well, as always, I have three final questions that I ask my guests here on the program, and I will ask those of you in just a moment. But first, I want to thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story. New paradigms for a new world, giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. We're here on Sundays at 7 a.m., 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesday mornings at 9 a.m., and we stream live at those times at richarddugan.com. We podcast on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and many other locations. We're also on YouTube, where you can watch these interviews. We hope that you will subscribe or at least click the notification so that you will be notified when a new interview is posted. And we try to get them up as quickly as we can. We try to do as many as we can each week. And we're thankful for those of you who are reposting the interviews as well. We encourage you also, as we've been doing throughout this program, to spend some time during the decade of perfect vision, going within, sitting still, being quiet, and listening to that still small voice, tapping into your inner wisdom. And we hope that you will spend time doing that. And if you can support us financially, we would greatly appreciate that. We have a PayPal account. It is there for your security as well as ours. And all you have to do is put in my email address when it asks for it, and it's richard@richarddugan.com. With all that being said, we are now going to ask our guest here on the program to talk about answering these three final questions here. Here we are in our 15th year. It's hard to believe it's been 15 years plus that we've been doing this program. It's really very cool. First question is, who is Pamela Cummins?
And what's coming up for me is I am a child of God. I am a child of God.
What is your life's purpose?
to help people and also to have compassion and to validate them.
Mhm. And finally, what was your best day?
My best day. Okay. Well, I answered one. Okay. Honestly, every day is good. But one of my best days was this, and this is coming up for me, is I went to England with my family. I went
Mm-hmm.
with my dad and when my stepmom was alive and my sister, niece, and brother-in-law. And I had spent some days with my dad and stepmom, some days with, my sister and her family. But one day I took like 5 hours and I explored the city on my own. And that was so much fun being alone in London, going
Oh,
to the British Museum, and I also went to the London Library and just walking around the streets. That was a blast. That was one of my best days.
oh my. I can relate to our times in Ireland. We were there for a month, but it was split into two-week periods. Um, Once in 2002, 2003 over Christmas and New Year's, and the next 2004 we were there in late February or late January, early February. Oh, and walking through the towns, that is such a blast. Such
Mm,
a blast. I want to thank you so much for giving us so much time and for giving us such wonderful memories to think about. That's very cool. Thank you so much for being with us.
thank you for having me.
And I'm Richard Dugan, thanking you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story. New paradigms for a new world where we're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. And until our next broadcast, podcast, videocast, love to Lol. Jeanette, I am listening. And Dad, have fun.